It says, Biden administration says closure of the ICE detention center in New Jersey would be catastrophic. Now, this is Biden, right? He's the guy who's supposed to be closing private prisons. Fed side with operators claim New Jersey law barring detention centers is unconstitutional. How does that end up being unconstitutional? Please tell me. The Biden administration is siding with private prisons corporation legal effort to keep an immigration detention center in Elizabeth from shuttering. Isn't that supposed to be stuff that Donald Trump does? What up, Scruffy family? How my nieces and nephews? We're going to get into your President Joe Biden and how he said he was going to stop funding. How he said he was going to stop funding.
What many Americans didn't see or had simply refused to see couldn't be ignored any longer. Those 8 minutes and 46 seconds that took George Floyd's life opened the eyes of millions of Americans and millions of people around all over the world. It was the knee on the neck of justice, and it wouldn't be forgotten.
Oh, that's the other thing. He did say that he was going to sign the George Floyd Act, but that didn't happen either. But let's get into the private prisons thing.
It stirred the conscience and of tens of millions of Americans. And in my view, it marked a turning point in this country's attitude toward racial justice. When the six-year-old daughter, Gianna, who I met with when I met with the family, I leaned down to say hi to her, and she said, looked at me, she said, "Daddy changed the world." That's what she.
You know what? He also needs to stop using black people as props. Because when are we going to stop falling for this, black people? Seriously. When are we going to stop falling for this shit?
Gianna said, his daughter, "Daddy changed the world." And I believe she was right. Not because this kind of injustice stopped, it clearly hasn't, but because the ground has shifted, because it's changed minds and mindsets, because it laid the groundwork for progress. COVID-19 has further ripped a path of destruction through every community in America, but no one has been spared. But the devastation in communities of color has been nothing short of stunning. Just look at the numbers. 40% of frontline workers, nurses, first responders, grocery store workers, are Americans of color, and many are still living on the edge.
Now, is it me? Is he's making this big ploy talking about how, policing is whatever and it's very tough and I don't know what he's talking about here because he is lying his blood off.
1 in 10 black Americans is out of work today.
I'm not going to tell you that might not be true. That is true at the time, especially at the time. It's probably even worse now. But he's not doing anything like he's acting like to make it better for anyone.
1 in 11 Latino Americans is out of work today.
And he even included Spanish people in there. But he's not helping you. You wonder why Spanish people are leaving the Democratic Party. I'm sorry, I'm cutting into this a lot, but I got to say this mess. We're going to let it play.
1 in 7 households in America, about 1 in 4 black, 1 in 5 Latino households in America, report that they don't have enough food to eat in the United States of America. Black and Latino Americans are dying of COVID-19 at rates nearly 3 times that of.
I'm so sorry, but he said that like he has not had anything to do with it over the last 50 years that he's been in office.
White Americans. And it's not white Americans' fault, but just a fact. And the Americans now know it, especially younger Americans. One of the reasons I'm so optimistic about this nation is that today's generation of young Americans is the most progressive, thoughtful, inclusive generation that America has ever seen.
So then how about you include the poor people, the veterans, black people, indigenous people? Do something for them instead of lying.
And they are pulling us toward justice in so many ways. forcing us to confront the huge gap in economic inequity between
Do realize he's given this speech back in 2021.
those at the top and everyone else, forcing us to confront the existential crisis of climate, and yes, forcing us to confront systemic racism.
Also, on the climate thing, the guy has been giving out permits like crazy after he says, oh, I'm fighting climate change and all of this stuff. He's been giving out drilling permits on federal grounds like crazy. Like crazy. That doesn't help climate change.
And white supremacy. It's just been weeks since all America witnessed a group of thugs, insurrectionists, a political extremist.
Although I'm tired of hearing about January 6th, he uses that as a freaking wedge. And you know what? I'm going to stop this video right here because I'm tired of hearing about that. Let's see what good old Joe has been doing about what he says he's supposed to be doing. Right? Let's just see. Well, let's see. Good old Joe. Wait a minute. We're supposed to be closing private prisons or stop funding them or stuff like that, right? And not only that, but we're supposed to care more about it because of George Floyd, and all of this stuff. Here we go. Biden administration sides with private prison company CoreCivic to keep immigrant detention in New Jersey. Now here, let me give you the synopsis of this. Here we go. New Jersey, a few years ago, they voted, the people in New Jersey, they voted to stop funding private prisons in New Jersey. That's what they voted for. That's their state. They don't want private prisons. But lo and behold, who sweeps in? The federal government. Joe Biden files an appeal to stop them, saying it's unconstitutional to stop them. How is it unconstitutional to close a private prison? But to stop New Jersey from closing their private prisons and dealing with ICE. They don't want to. They don't want to. So it says, Joe Biden, and this is only last month, it says, Joe Biden this week, the Biden administration is expected to file an amicus brief joining private prison company CoreCivic in its attempt to keep an immigration and customs enforcement prison open in Elizabeth, Jersey. Why are you fighting their state if they don't want it there? The Elizabeth Detention Center is a converted warehouse. It's not even a jail. Not even a jail. It's a converted warehouse with nearly 30 years of documented abuse is approaching its contract expiration with ICE in August 31st, 2023. So now, it's not a jail, it's a converted warehouse. That means for the last 30 years, they have been using a warehouse. They haven't even built a jail. So they've been using a warehouse that has nearly 30 years of documented abuse. And he's fighting to keep that open? It's approaching its contract end on August 31st, 2023, and is barred from renewing its contract under New Jersey state law signed by Governor Murphy almost 2 years ago. But Joe Biden's filed in court to stop it. This is the guy that signed the 94 crime bill. This is the guy that faked letting marijuana people out of federal prison just not too long ago. This guy is full of shit. But let me check this out. This is not unusual. It says this move follows a similar Biden administration strategy in California where the administration fought to prevent a private prison ban from taking effect. Joe Biden's administration decision to side with CoreCivic, the world's largest private prison company, is bitterly and utterly disappointing. Now this is Joe. This is what Joe is. This is who Joe is. So, in the middle of following this, which at the end of August is when their contract ends, so we're gonna see what Joe's gonna do, but in the middle of following this, a judge steps in. Didn't we think that this was gonna be better? I mean, come on. It says the U.S. Department of Justice, in a Wednesday legal filing, calls New Jersey's 2021 law banning all immigration detention contracts unconstitutional. Now, I would think he's probably doing that because he's bringing in every immigrant and sticking them all over the country. But you know what? But how are we saying that this is unconstitutional? I mean, really? So they're not allowed to say that they don't want this. This is the craziest thing in the world. This is utterly the craziest thing in the world. I mean, how do you rectify this at all? How do you say anything about this? How do you do this? You're talking about telling the state that they have to pay for-profit prisons, which means that those prisons have to make a profit, which means it forces your state to fill those prison beds, which means, in turn, you are forcing your police to then effectively, and we already know you have a quota, but effectively you are enforcing a quota on these cops saying that they have to fill these beds. So that makes them go out and police even harder than they do. So what are we saying here? What are we doing? Mr. Joe, you're not such a good guy. All right, Scruffy fam, I'm gonna tell you right now. This is what a New Jersey judge had to say about it.
In Trenton is hearing oral arguments this week on a consequential case for New Jersey involving a lawsuit filed by CoreCivic. That's the company running the state's last remaining detention center in Elizabeth. It's challenging a state law banning local jails from entering into new contracts to house federal immigration detainees and has the backing of the Biden administration. As Ted Goldberg reports, activists are fighting back.
Outside a federal courthouse in Trenton, protesters shouted in Spanish for lawyers to leave. Lawyers representing CoreCivic, the company that owns the Elizabeth Detention Center, or the EDC, and the Department of Justice.
Whatever moral high ground they...
Now, Joe Biden was saying how he was going to, what? Defund private prisons. Here's another promise broken, Joe.
The Democrats and Biden, claims during the Trump years when it comes to immigration, they just ceded today.
Immigration advocates were angry.
Now, do I need to talk any more about this whole thing? Do I need to say anything else? They're all corrupt. All of them. Every single one. So, that voting for the lesser of two evils? Stop it. They're Dem Repubs, the same thing. But it's Uncle Scruff. I can only point out what's going on. Take it easy. Peace.